So we are going to be looking at setting up your Google Sheet so that you have colors, and you might have this white space here that's pretty clear where somebody's supposed to enter information. I'm going to tell you in advance that the internet connection I've had has been a little bit spotty here and there, so if it gets slow I might stop the video and start a new one later, or if it's a little bit slow, that will just give you time to kind of go back and forth. We'll see what happens. So this was the sheet that I ended up with in class. I edited it twice, so some of you maybe saw this sheet completed and some of you did not. I'm going to add a new sheet and I'm going to start all over, and we're going to make something similar to this. So it's got color, it's got some cells combined to like center a heading. It has a weird border down here, and there's some formulas in these cells as well, which show up here when I click on them. So I'm going to make a new sheet. That's down here. This little plus sign makes a whole new sheet, like a tab. The tabs are at the bottom here. So I'm going to add a sheet. It's saving it. Okay, good. All the changes are saved in Drive. So this little thing up here always tells you where you're at while you're connected. It's good to take a look at that if you do lose connection, but it typically tells you. So we had information about food. And I'm just going to do a couple examples and show you how you might lay this out. You may certainly use whatever colors you want. I'm just going to use colors that I typically use. Whatever you're interested in is completely fine. So I'm going to start by putting in a heading, because this is for food. So I'm going to highlight a whole bunch of cells across the top. You don't have to do this. You might have food in a column format and then transportation in another column format, and home utilities in a third column format. I'm going to set mine up so that I'm doing food, and then I would do another heading for transportation and so on. I'll show you what I mean as I go. But you can do it either way. So I'm going to go across the top here, and I've highlighted a bunch of cells. I want them to all be connected because I would like the heading food to be right in the middle like I had before. The way I do that is I merge cells, M-E-R-G-E. And the little icon for that is right here. So you see when I hover over it, it says merge cells. So I'm going to click on that and it will make all of these 7 cells into one big cell. Now I see just one big cell. Yes, it goes across from A to G still, but that is just a single cell. And I can type in food. Well, it's not centered. That's a problem. I would like it right in the middle so that it's kind of a centered heading for this. The way I change that is with the alignment of text. The alignment of text is right here. So see how it says horizontal align? It's pushing it over along the horizontal thing. And if you open this up, here's left aligning, center aligning, and right aligning according to the horizontal line of the cell. I'm going to put it in the center. So there we go. That's centered now. And maybe I want it to be a color. Oh, let's make it this bright purple. I'm not sure why, but let's go with it. And maybe I want the text to be bold. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to choose bold text. I'm not sure. You can also change the font itself. Over here, this says Arial. I can bring this down. I might make this permanent marker. That's kind of fun, goes with my fun purple. And I can also make it bigger when I go to the size here. So I might be able to make it say, 18's a little big. Maybe I would rather go with 14. So there's my fun food heading. Now, I want to make sure it's clear how I enter in information. You can do this a few different ways. I've been known to put instructions in my cells for anybody using them to say only put information in white cells or something like that. You don't have to put this in, but you could. If you wanted to, you just choose the cell where you might want that information, and you might say only enter information into white cells in this sheet in order to calculate your carbon footprint. There. Well, now that's not actually a merged cell. I can merge cells after the fact though. So if I click here, you can see that it didn't select all of the text. It only selected this first cell in A2. If you wanted to merge cells afterwards, you could do that. So I might go all the way to F, or maybe I'll just go all the way to G since that's as far over as I've gone before. And again, there's my merged cells. It puts it all together. If I want it centered, here's my center. Either way is fine. And you might want to make this also fairly visible. Maybe you'll use a, oh gosh, let's go with a pink. This pink I don't think is going to look great with our purple. It's okay, we'll go with that. Again, you can make it bold, you can make it other fonts, you can make it italicized, lots of options here. You can also change the color of the text itself. So if for whatever reason I also wanted the text to be purple, I could do that, or I could make it bright red. That's very difficult to see, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change it back to black here. Okay. So now let's put in information. I want somebody to be able to enter in their ounces by weight of the food type for a day. We set that up so that they could enter it in for a day. In any of these cells down here, you can do it for any particular amount of time. Making it a little bit more user-friendly is somewhat easier, but you do want to make it clear what they are trying to enter. So maybe I want them to enter the information here or something. You can put it anywhere you really want it to go, but I'm just going to put it here, and maybe I'll make it easier for me to tell that that's where I'm going to have it put by putting a border around it. So here's borders right there. And when you click it, it shows you all the different options, like all borders, inner borders, horizontal borders, vertical borders. These are mostly useful over here if you have more than one cell chosen, whereas this is just the outside border, outer borders here. And so now I've got, if I click outside, now I've got a dark border around that cell. That's where I'm going to have somebody put the information. You can change the way that cell border looks. Again, if I go into borders, you can change the color, and you can change whether it's dashed or dotted. So if I chose dotted, well, that didn't do anything. Maybe you just can't tell. That's possible. Dashed, you can tell. Maybe I have to undo. Hold on. No borders. Let's do that. Okay, and now let's try it again with all borders and making it dashed. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you have to get it to reset in order to show up. So that appears to be dashed now. Of course, you can leave it solid or whatever. All right. I'm going to start typing the information, like the instructions for this cell. And maybe I want it to take up all of this space. It seems reasonable based on what I typed in class that it would take up that amount of space. So I'm going to, again, merge these cells. I'm going to align it in the center, and I'm going to start typing. So enter the number of ounces by weight that you eat of snacks and drinks in a day. That seems reasonable. So enter the number of ounces by weight that you eat of snacks and drinks in a day. You might even say in the box below or in the cell below, something like that. When I'm done typing, I'm going to press enter. Well, that isn't what I want. And the reason it's not what I want is because the text is not what we call wrapping. It's just a straight horizontal line all the way across. And so since it's centered, it's cutting off the beginning and it's cutting off the end because it didn't have enough space. So while I have this cell selected, I'm going to go over to this. This is text wrapping. So you can see the arrow is pointing outside of the cell boundary, meaning that text will just continue past your cell boundary when you type in information. So I'm going to open this up, and here you can say overflow. That's the one we have right now. This is wrapping the text, and this would be clipping the text, meaning that it's just cut off at the end instead. So we're going to choose to wrap the text. That'll make all of it show up in the cell space that I've chosen. And there it's wrapped. Another thing you can do, there is a vertical align. So this was horizontal align where it shows up horizontally over on the left, over on the right, in the middle. This one's vertically, so this is the top of the cell, the middle of the cell, and the bottom of the cell. And we can see right now that what's chosen is the bottom of the cell. I typically choose the top or the center, although it looks perfectly fine as is, but just know that that's an option. If it looks a little bit funny, you don't like where it shows up, you can change the vertical alignment as well. Okay, so there is entering that information. Now, I've told people to just enter stuff into the white cells, so it might be useful if I colored in all the cells I have so far that are not white. So I'll select all of those cells. Oh, let's choose a color. I'm going to go with an ugly yellow color. That's a little dark. That's a little hard to see. Let's go with something lighter. That's really unattractive colors together, but there we go. I'm still in my color allowance for the rubric. So the rubric says to use 3 to 5 colors. This is my 3. They're not great together, but those are my 3 colors. I can highlight cells with another color. So once I've got some color entered, you can actually take the cell and you can, from the copy, you can copy that color over. You'll want to be careful because if you have text and you select one of those and you copy over, it's going to copy the text as well. When you do that, remember you've got this undo button up here, which you can also hold down Control and Z to undo. So I'm going to undo that since I don't actually want that text copied twice. But I'm going to drag the color around here, fill in some space. So just be careful what you grab and use the undo if you need to. You can also just highlight them and fill in color like we did before. So there I've got my entering the ounces of snacks and drinks. Now I maybe wanted to start calculating my carbon footprint for snacks and drinks. So maybe I will highlight some cells, merge them again. Notice that there's other ways to merge things. You can unmerge stuff if you don't like it. You can also use the undo button, that's fine. We're just going to leave it. Oh, I unmerged them. There we go. So I'm going to type in, this is your carbon, let's say annual, since it's for the year, carbon footprint for snacks and drinks. It's cut off. I'm going to choose text wrapping, I'm going to center it, and I'm going to put it in the middle in terms of the vertical alignment. Okay, I would like the same color here. I think if I drag this across, it'll, nope, won't do that. So I'm going to have to actually manually put the color in here since I've already merged them. I think we used that one. Yeah. Okay. And I think I'm going to have it show up here, so I'm going to leave that white for now. And this is where I'm going to now put in my formula. So I have to start with an equal sign. And if we remember from last time, we had to multiply the ounces that the person ate per day. So that was this cell. Okay, so now that's entered into my formula, B6. And we multiplied by the grams of CO2 per ounce, which I'm not remembering off the top of my head, so I'm going to go back to sheet 1 and check that. Actually, go back, press enter. Whoops, we'll take that out. We'll come back to that in just a second. So go back to sheet 1, double check, it was 147.4. Okay, so let's start over here. So there's my B6 times 147.4. And then we wanted to times by the number of days in the year. So they had their ounces per day. We're going to scale that up to how many ounces would be in the year by saying, well, 365 days have passed. How many total ounces is that going to be? And then there were the grams of carbon for each of that ounce. We're again going to scale it up with the 147.4. We're going to take that and divide it by 1 million. We're dividing by 1 million because we want this to be in metric tons. So there we have that showing up. It is 0 because there's no value over here for B6. So you shouldn't be having any carbon footprint when you don't have anything entered. If I were to change this and say, well, I eat on average 10 ounces of snacks and drinks each day, there's my carbon footprint. It might be useful to tell somebody what units that carbon footprint is in. So if I go back up here, I can click up in the box up here to edit the text, or I can double click the cell. So this is your annual carbon footprint for snacks and drinks, and I'm going to say that is in metric tons CO2 per year. And now I can know what those units are for the person using it. We did the same thing with what was the next one? Fruit. There we go. You can copy stuff down and just edit it. So since I'm doing something fairly similar, I might just copy this set of cells and then paste it. This makes it a little bit easier. All I have to do then is take out snacks and drinks and replace it with fruit. Same thing here. Copy that, put it down here, double click it, or click up in the cell up here. And I'm going to take out snacks and drinks and put in fruit. Copy down that color that I wanted. I might actually copy that and put it down here because now it actually took the border as well, which is useful. And I'm just going to fill in some color here. There's that. And, well, that's probably fine, but that isn't what I wanted. So copy across, there we go. Copy across the bottom, there we go, and copy up, there we go. And so now I need to put in my formula for the carbon footprint for fruit. I'm going to do this a little bit smarter this time and double check my formula first. That was 92 grams of CO2 per ounce for fruit, so 92. So it's equal to however many ounces I eat times 92 grams of CO2 per ounce times 365 days per year, and then I'm going to divide that by 1 million. And there are my metric tons of CO2 per year for fruit. One more thing we might want to change is the color of the results here, and that's because we told somebody to only enter information into the white cells. So maybe I will try and get this same color pink. If you're not sure what color you used, you can actually go into, click the cell that you have that color. Go into the little color menu here, and it'll show you which color that was. They're going to be laid out the same way every single time. So that one's the second one down in that second column of pinky colors. So, again, sticking with my 3 to 5 colors here. Not the most pleasant colors. There we go. So I have a place for somebody to enter information, and I have the total carbon footprint for that. You do not need to leave these with values. You certainly can, because you've made it fairly clear that they should go in the white cells, and if there's numbers in there like the averages that we've talked about, that's perfectly fine if you want to test out that these work correctly when you're working on your cell or your spreadsheet. So go ahead and feel free to test those out. When you're all done, and maybe you want to put in your total carbon footprint for food here, so I'm going to highlight some space, maybe that space, and I want this to be total carbon footprint for food. I know these are not all the categories, but these are all the ones we're going to look at. I'm actually going to right align that because it's going to show up down here in this cell. And I want that to be the same color as I used for the heading up above. And I'm going to make it the same font as above. And I think I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And then I'm going to enter in my formula here to get the total carbon footprint for food. So equal, and I want to add some things up. You could say this cell plus this cell, but when you have a long list of things to enter, you might not want to put pluses between them. You certainly can. That's an easy way to do it. But the other way you can do this is actually to enter this formula sum. Sum is a little bit easier when you're actually highlighting a bunch of things, but this works just as well. So sum is just going to add up all the cells you've chosen. So there's F6. I'm going to put in a comma since I don't want anything between this and my next cell. There's F10. Again, not that much faster than putting in plus signs, but it is a second way to do it. And you would just continue doing a comma and cell for all the things in the food category, in the transportation category, in the home utilities category. And then I'm just going to close that up with a parenthesis, and there is my total. So again, if I put in 10 ounces for snacks and drinks and 10 ounces for fruit, there's my total carbon footprint for the year for food for just these two categories. And I might highlight these things and fill them in with color so that they're not white space like everything else. And since I can actually use 3 to 5 colors, let's put in another color. Let's put in a fun yellow color. That blends in too much. Let's make it brighter. These are not good colors together, guys. I'm sorry. So here is now my spreadsheet for carbon footprint. I actually don't like the color of this. I'm going to change it to that. There we go. That's a little bit better, because now what I can do when I go down to transportation, I can highlight, I can merge, I can center text, I can type in transportation, and then I can make the heading the same as this bright purple thing up here. So that's maybe a little bit better of an option. Permanent marker, and I believe we chose 14. That looks about right. So now I can tell that I've moved on to a new section. I can see where my total was for a particular section. You can also make this total bold or italicized, or neither of those. You can make the text size bigger if you want to make it clear that this is some important information. You can change the text type. I could make that permanent marker. That's really hard to read. I don't recommend permanent marker for numbers. That's hard to read. Let's just stick with Arial. That's a lot easier to read. So, user friendliness. We've got colors, we've got merging cells, we've got putting in borders, we've got changing fonts. I think that about covers what we talked about in class. If you find you have other questions about making your Google Sheet user-friendly, please send me a message. I can make another video, or I can answer your question individually if I think it's something that the rest of the class maybe won't need as much. But I'm happy to help with this further, to lay it out in a way that you think will be better for using the sheet. So yeah, so thanks for watching, and send me a message if you need anything.